Chapter 11, Saturday, October 17th, 2026. We are coming apart. The community, the families, individual family members, were a rope, breaking a single strand at a time. There was another robbery last night, or an attempted robbery. I wish that was all. No garden theft this time. 3 guys came over the wall and crowbarred their way into the Cruz house. The Cruz family, of course, had loud burglar alarms, barred windows, security gates at all the doors, just like the rest of us, but that doesn't seem to matter. When people want to come in, they come in. The thieves used simple hand tools, crowbars, hydraulic jacks, things anyone can get. I don't know how they disabled the burglar alarm. I know they cut the electrical and phone lines to the house. That shouldn't have mattered since the alarm had backup batteries. Whatever else they did or whatever went wrong, the alarm didn't go off. And after the thieves used the crowbar on the door, they walked into the kitchen and used it on Doretta Cruz's 75-year-old grandmother. The old lady was a light sleeper and had gotten into the habit of getting up at night, brewing herself a cup of lemongrass tea. Her family says that's what she was coming into the kitchen to do when the thieves broke in. Then Dorothea's brothers, Hector and Ruben Quintanilla, came running, guns in hand. They had the bedroom nearest to the kitchen, and they heard all the noise, the break-in itself and Miss Quintanilla being knocked against the kitchen table and chairs. They killed 2 of the thieves. The third got away, perhaps wounded. There was a lot of blood, but old Miss Quintanilla was dead. This is the 7th incident since Keith was killed. More and more people are coming over our wall to take what we have or what they think we have. 7 intrusions into house or garden in less than 2 months in an 11-household community. If this is what's happening to us, what must it be like for people who are really rich? Although perhaps with their big guns, private armies as security guards, and up-to-date security equipment, they're better able to fight back. Maybe that's why we're getting so much attention. We have a few stealables and we're not that well protected. Of the 7 intrusions, 3 were successful. Thieves got in and out with something. A couple of radios, a sack of walnuts, wheat flour, cornmeal, pieces of jewelry, ancient TV, a computer. If they could carry it, they made off with it. If what Keith told me is true, we're getting the poorer class of thieves here. No doubt the tougher, smarter, more courageous thieves hit stores and businesses. But our lower class thugs are killing us, slowly. Next year, I'll be 18. Old enough, according to Dad, to stand a regular night watch. I wish I could do it now. As soon as I can do it, I will, but it won't be enough. It's funny. Corey and Dad have been using some of the money Keith brought us to help the people who've been robbed. Stolen money to help victims of theft. Half the money is hidden in our backyard in case of disaster. There's always been some money hidden out there. Now there's enough to make a difference. The other half has gone into the church to fund to help our neighbors in emergency. It won't be enough. October 20th. 2026. Something new is beginning, or perhaps something old and nasty is reviving. A company called Kajimoto Stam Frampton and Company, KSF, has taken over the running of a small coastal city called Olivar. Olivar, incorporated in the 1980s, is just one more beach bedroom suburb of Los Angeles, small and well-to-do. It has little industry, much hilly, vacant land, and a short, crumbling coastline. Its people, like some here in our Robledo neighborhood, earn salaries that would once have made them prosperous and comfortable. In fact, Olivar is a lot richer than we are, but since it's a coastal city, its taxes are higher, and since some of its land is unstable, it has extra problems. Part of it sometimes crumble into the ocean, undercut or deeply saturated by salt water. Sea level keeps rising with the warming climate, and there was the occasional earthquake. Olivar's flat, sandy beach is already just a memory. So are the houses and businesses that used to sit on that beach. Like coastal cities all over the world, Olivar needs special help. It's an upper middle class, white, literate community of people who had once had a lot of weight to throw around. Now, not even the politicians it's helped to elect will stand by it. The whole state, the country, the world needs help, it's been told. What the hell is tiny Olivar whining about? Somewhat richer and less geological active communities are getting help. Dikes, seawalls, evacuation assistance, whatever is appropriate. Olivar, located between the sea and Los Angeles, is getting an influx of salt water from one direction and desperate poor people from the other. It has a solar-powered desalination plant on some of its flatter, more stable land, and that provides its people with a dependable supply of water. But it can't protect itself from the encroaching sea, the crumbling earth, the crumbling economy, or the desperate refugees. Even getting back and forth to work, for those few who can't work at home, was becoming as dangerous for them as it was for our people. A kind of terrible gauntlet that has to be run over and over again. Then, the people of KSF showed up. After many promises, much haggling, suspicion, fear, hope, and legal wrangling, the voters and the officials of Olivar permitted their town to be taken over, bought, privatized. KSF will expand the desalination plant to vast size. That plant will be the first of many. The company intends to dominate farming and the selling of water and solar and wind energy over much of the Southwest, where for pennies it's already bought vast tracts of fertile, waterless land. So far, Olivar is one of its smaller coastal holdings, but with Olivar, it gets an eager, educated workforce, people a few years older than I am whose options are very limited. And there's all that for formerly public land that they now control. They mean to own great water, power, and agricultural industries in an area that most people have given up on. They have long-term plans, and the people of Olivar have decided to become part of them. To accept smaller salaries in their socioeconomic group is used to, in exchange for security, a guaranteed food supply, jobs, and help in their battle with the Pacific. There are still people in Olivar who are uncomfortable with the change. They know about early American company towns in which the companies cheated and abused people. But this is to be different. The people of Olivar aren't frightened, impoverished victims. They look after themselves, their rights, and their property. They're educated people who don't want to live in the spreading chaos of the rest of Los Angeles County. Some of them said so on the radio documentary we all listened to last night, as they made a public spectacle of selling themselves to KSF. Good luck to them, Dad said. Not that they'll have much luck in the long run. What do you mean? Corey demanded. I think the whole idea is wonderful. It's what we need. Now, if only some big company would want to do the same thing with Robledo. No, Dad said. Thank God, no. You don't know. Why shouldn't they? Robledo's too big, too poor, too black, and too Hispanic to be of interest to anyone. It has no coastline. What it does have is street poor, body dumps, and a memory of once being well off, of shade trees, big houses, hills, and canyons. Most of those things are still here, but no company will want us. At the end of the program, it was announced that KSF was looking for registered nurses, credentialed teachers, and a few other skilled professionals who'd be willing to move to Olivar and work for room and board. The offer wasn't put that way, of course, but it's what they meant. Yet, Corey recorded the phone number and called it at once. She and Dad are both teachers, both PhDs. She was desperate to get in ahead of the crowd. Dad just shrugged and let her call. Room and board. The offer salaries were so low that if Dad and Corey both worked, they wouldn't earn as much as Dad is earning now with the college. And out of it, they'd have to pay rent as well as the usual expenses. In fact, when you add everything up, it's clear that with the 6 of us, they couldn't earn enough to meet expenses. It might work if I could find a job of some kind, but in Olivar, they don't need me. They've got hundreds of me at least, maybe thousands. Every surviving community is full of unemployed, half-educated kids, or unemployed, uneducated kids. Anyone KSF hired would have a hard time living on the salary offered. In not very much time, I think the new hires would be in debt to the company. That's an old company town trick. Get people into debt, hang on to them, work them harder. Debt slavery. That might work in Christopher Donner's America. Labor laws, state and federal, are not what they once were. We could try, Corey insisted to Dad. We could be safe in Olivar. The kids could go to a real school, later get jobs with the company. After all, where can they go from here except outside? Dad shook his head. Don't hope for it, Corey. There's nothing safe about slavery. Marcus and I were still up, listening. The 2 younger boys had been sent to bed, but we 4 were still clustered around the radio. Now Marcus spoke up. Olivar doesn't sound like slavery, he said. Those rich people would never let themselves be slaves. Dad gave him a sad smile. Not now, he said. Not at first. He shook his head. Kajamoto, Stam, Frampton, Japanese, German, Canadian. When I was young, people said it would come to this. Well, why shouldn't other countries buy what's left of us if we put us up for sale? I wonder how many of the people in Olivar have any idea what they're doing. I don't think many do, I said. I don't think they dare let themselves know. He looked at me, and I looked back. I'm still learning how dog people can be in denial, even when their freedom or their lives are at stake. He's lived with it longer. I wonder how. Marcus said, Lauren, you ought to want to go to some place like Olivar more than anyone. You share pain every time you see someone get hurt. Be a lot less pain in Olivar. And there would be all those guards, I said. I've noticed that people who have a little bit of power tend to use it. All those guards KSF is bringing in, they won't be allowed to bother the rich people, at least at first. But new, bare bones, work for room and board employees, I bet they'll be fair game. There's no reason to believe the company would allow that kind of thing, Corey said. Why do you always expect the worst of everyone? When it comes to strangers with guns, I told her, I think suspicion is more likely to keep you alive than trust. She made a sharp, wordless sound of disgust. You know nothing about the world. You think you have all the answers, but you know nothing. I didn't argue. There wasn't much point in my arguing with her. I doubt that Olivar is looking for families of blacks and Hispanics anyway, Dad said. The Balters or the Garfields or even some of the Dunns might get in, but I don't think we would. Even if I were trusting enough to put my family into KSF's hands, they wouldn't have us. We could try it, Corey insisted. We should. We shouldn't be any worse off than we are now if they turn us down. And if we get in, we don't like it, we could come back here. We could rent the house to one of the big families here, charge them just a little, then come back here jobless and penniless? Dad said. No, I mean it. This business sounds half antebellum revival and half science fiction. I don't trust it. Freedom is dangerous, Corey. But it's precious, too. You can't just throw it away, let it slip away. You can't sell it for bread and pottage. Corey stared at him. Just stared. He refused to look away. Corey got up and went to their bedroom. I saw her there a few minutes later, sitting on the bed, cradling the urn of Keith's ashes and crying. October 24th, 2026. Marcus tells me the Garfields are trying to get into Olivar. He's been spending a lot of time with Robin Balter, and she told him she hates the idea because she likes her cousin Joanne a lot better than she does her two sisters. She's afraid that if Joanne goes away to Olivar, she'll never see her again. I suspect she's right. I can't imagine this place without the Garfields. Joanne, Jay, Philadel. We've lost individuals before, of course, but we've never lost the whole family. I mean, they'll be alive, but they'll be gone. I hope they refused. I know it's selfish, but I don't care. Not that it makes any difference what I hope. Oh, hell. I hope they get whatever will be best for their survival. I hope they'll be all right. At 13, my brother Marcus had become the only person in the family whom I would call beautiful. Girls his age stare at him when they think he's not looking. They giggle a lot around him and chase him like crazy, but he sticks to Robin. She's not pretty at all skin and bones and brains, but she's funny and sensible. In a year or two, she'll start to fill out, and my brother will get beauty along with all those brains. Then, if the two of them are still together, their lives will get a lot more interesting. I've changed my mind. I used to wait for the explosion, the big crash, the sudden chaos that would destroy the neighborhood. Instead, things are unraveling, disintegrating bit by bit. Susan Talcott, Bruce, and her husband have applied to Olivar. Other people are talking about applying, thinking about it. There's a small college in Olivar. There are lethal security devices to keep thugs in the street pour out. There are more jobs opening up. Maybe Olivar is the future, one face of it. Cities controlled by big companies are old hat in science fiction. My grandmother left a whole bookcase of old science fiction novels. The company city subgenre always seemed to star a hero who outsmarted, overthrew, or escaped the company. I've never seen one where the hero fought like hell to get taken in and underpaid by the company. In real life, that's the way it will be. That's the way it is. And what should I be doing? What can I do? In less than a year, I'll be 18, an adult. An adult with no prospects except life in our disintegrating neighborhood. Or Earthseed. To begin Earthseed, I'll have to go outside. I've known that for a long time, but the idea scares me just as much as it always has. Next year, when I'm 18, I'll go. That means now I have to begin to plan how I'll handle it. October 31st, 2026. I'm going to go north. My grandparents once traveled a lot by car. They left us old road maps of just about every county in the state, plus several of other parts of the country. The newest of them is 40 years old, but that doesn't matter. The roads will still be there. They'll just be in worse shape than they were back when my grandparents drove a gas-fueled car over them. I put maps of the California counties north of us and the few I could find in Washington and Oregon counties into my pack. I wonder if there are people outside who will pay me to teach them reading and writing, basic stuff, or people who will pay me to read or write for them. Keith started me thinking about that. I might even be able to teach some Earthseed verses along with the reading and writing. Given any chance at all, teaching is what I would choose to do. Even if I have to take other kinds of work to get enough to eat, I can teach. If I do it well, it will draw people to me, to Earthseed. All successful life is adaptable, opportunistic, tenacious, interconnected, and fecund. Understand this, use it, shape God. I wrote that verse a few months ago. It's true, like all the verses. It seems more true than ever now, more useful to me when I'm afraid. I finally got a title for my book of Earthseed verses. Earthseed, the Book of the Living. There are these Tibetan and the Egyptian books of the dead. Dad has copies of them. I've never heard anything called a Book of the Living, but I wouldn't be surprised to discover that there is something. I don't care. I'm trying to write the truth. I'm trying to be clear. I'm not interested in being fancy or even original. Clarity and truth will be plenty if I can only achieve them. If it happens that there are other people outside somewhere preaching my truth, I'll join them. Otherwise, I'll adapt where I must. Take what opportunities I can find or make, hang on, gather students, and teach.